Hey, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I watched Truman yesterday, so we were just talking about that in our class just before we started here. Thanks for coming, you guys. I appreciate having you here. Appreciate you listening on a regular basis. I hope you're going to find this very interesting today. You know, line upon line, precept upon precept. That's how it all fits together. You can't see the big picture by just looking at a spot here and there. We've got to dig deeper. We've got to engage our minds, our hearts, and our spirits to be able to see and understand. What is it? Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. You can't get understanding if you don't have the knowledge, and you can't get the wisdom if you don't have the understanding. They build upon each other. Last week, we started the Feast of Yehovah, Leviticus 23. Most people understand Leviticus 23. We went through the we went through the spring feasts last week. And I want to do just a very brief review. I've got a very specific reason for doing it today, as we are getting ready to do the fall feasts, starting at verse 23. We started last week with the Sabbath of Yehovah. The Sabbath, 7 days you shall work. 6 days you shall work, be done. 7th day is the Sabbath. So he talks about the Sabbath. Then he's going to talk about the feasts of Yehovah. This word feasts, sometimes it's Chag, C-H-A-G, Chag of Yehovah. This happens to be, they translate it as feast, but the word here is Moedim. They're Yehovah's Moedim. And then it talks about even holy rehearsals. The Moedim are holy, Kodesh, Mikra. The world keeps holidays, not holy days. If we understand Easter, we understand that it comes from Ishtar. Ishtar was the, how should I call her? The queen of heaven, if you will. The spring equinox in Yasher was when the people of Sodom had an orgy. They shared each other's wives and gave their daughters to all the men of the city. Christmas, the winter solstice, both sun god, spring equinox is sun god worship. Summer solstice, or winter solstice, is again the shortest day of the year, came from Saturnalia, also a pagan feast orgy that went on for like 7 days. This is the roots of where Easter and Christmas come from. The Catholic Church, wanting to unify all the religions of the world, made Easter about Jesus. They created Jesus. You know, there are other men supposedly born of a virgin, resurrected from the dead. Jesus wasn't the first, but they put that together. They gave you the New Testament. It wasn't the Hebrews that added the New Testament scriptures to the Hebrew scriptures. It was the Catholic Church that did it. Now we're finding out that the Catholic Church is what? The synagogue of Satan. Have you heard about the ninth circle sacrifices that are going on underneath the Catholic Church? Oh my Elohim. Well, so we talked about the Sabbath. We're starting to talk about the feasts. The next thing that came up was the 14th day of the first month, Passover. Today is the 12th day of the Roman calendar, but it's the 13th day of Aviv. Tomorrow is the 14th day of Aviv, and tomorrow is the day that I am, once again, probably for the, 12th, 13th year in a row, I'll be keeping Passover again. I do it every year. Here, I'm all ready. Slaughter knife. Gotta have a slaughter knife. Gotta have hyssop. Hyssop. You can order it online. I've got a bowl to catch the blood. I use brass because the blood doesn't harden. What is the word for it? Congeal. The blood, what is it? The blood doesn't congeal. Go ahead, V.
Coagulate.
Coagulate. Yeah, the blood doesn't coagulate in the brass because of the copper. So it's easier to get it onto your door. Passover takes planning. We're supposed to select our lamb on the 10th day of the 7th month. I did that this Wednesday. Tomorrow, I'll be picking up my goat. He's going to be about 13 days old, 14 days old. He's a young little guy, but he only needs to be 10 days old. I'm the only one eating from him. Plenty of meat for me. And I'm going to renew my covenant with Yehovah. Numbers 9 says if the Ger or the Ezrach, Israel's seed, doesn't keep the Passover, they get kicked out of Israel. I'm not going to get kicked out of Israel. Isn't going to happen. So that's the 14th day of the first month is Yehovah's Passover. Then we have the 15th day of the 7th month. And look at this. When you go down to verse 8, it says, but you shall bring, it doesn't say an offering made by fire. It says, you shall bring fire to Yehovah. Well, if you go to this note here in Numbers 28, very interestingly, is all the offerings that we're going to bring to Yehovah throughout our existence. Let's go there for just a moment because I want to point something out to you. It starts by talking about the daily feasts, day by day. This is the morning and the evening offering. Then it talks about on the Sabbath day, the things that we're supposed to bring, 2 lambs in their first year without blemish, with their minkah as a burnt offering. Then it talks about the beginning of months. This is the things that we do at the beginning of our months. You know, I used to keep the new moons as a Sabbath. I can't find any reason to keep that as a Sabbath other than the 7th month, first day, which we're going to talk about today, first thing, once we finish this little review. So, Deuteronomy, Numbers 28 are all the offerings that we bring to Yehovah, daily, Sabbath, new moons, feast day offerings for the spring. Deuteronomy 29 is all the fall feasts and all the things that we're going to bring on the fall feasts. And we may find ourselves going that direction here today briefly. Then we talked about Shavuot. That was the last thing we really talked about. Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and Shavuot. It's during every Passover, 7 days long, is going to have a Sabbath in it. The day after the Sabbath, that falls during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is going to be the time that we're going to bring our wave sheaves, our sheaves of barley that we brought to the feast. And from that day, it gets calculated that from the day after the harvest, count 50 days. Or we can do it from the day after here it says from the Sabbath. One day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave. It says, he shall wave the sheaf. No, where am I? Here's where it is. I was looking for this morning. When you come into the land, which I give you to reap a harvest, you shall bring sheaves of your first fruits. We don't have to bring sheaves. We don't have land that Yehovah has given us yet. When you come into the land, which I give you to reap the harvest, we don't do that. But we do Passover. We do unleavened bread. But we don't have to do the sheaves. Now, it was this. Where's the 50 days? 7 Sabbaths and a day, or 50 days. From the Sabbath that falls during the Feast of Tabernacle, that's when Shavuot's going to be. 2 ways to determine it. They both come up with the same day. If they don't come up with the same day, you done got it right. June 8th is where it's coming up today. I'm sorry, this year. Okay, then we finished that, the spring feasts. Yehovah had one verse where he talked about not gleaning the corners of your harvest. That was in 22. And we're picking up in 23 and 24 today. Then Yehovah spoke to Moses saying, speak to, who's he speaking to? Watch Israel's seed. Remember, 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before Yehovah. What are they? Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. That's the times that we appear before Yehovah. Israel's seed's males. We're talking about Israel's seed right here. Not the children of Israel. The ladies don't come to Passover. The ladies don't come to Shavuot. The ladies don't come to Sukkot. Except once every 7 years they come to Sukkot. The rest of the time they're at home. The ger are at home. The male, the female servants are at home. Maybe Israel's seed sons come to these feasts. But we've got to understand more. He says, speak to Israel's seed. You know, who are they? We're going to talk about more of that today. You know, we see it everywhere. I'll point them out to you. It says, in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall have, it says, a Sabbath rest, a memorial, a blowing of trumpets. Folks, you got to dig deeper. Here's what it actually says. Speak to Israel's seed, B'nai Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, for ye, it should be, for ye be a Sabbath rest. This doesn't say a Sabbath. This says a Sabbath rest. For thee. Here's for. Here's the thee. Y'all. For y'all, this will be it's called a Shabbaton. It's kind of like a Sabbath. They call it a Sabbatism. A special holiday. It's not a Sabbath. It's a Sabbaton. And it's only in the 7th month. First day. Look what it says, Sabbaton. This is a word study right here. Sabbaton, a masculine noun meaning a time of rest. That's what it is. A special holiday, a day of rest, a Sabbath feast. They called this a Sabbath rest. Not a Sabbath. They called it a Sabbath rest because they want to tell you it's different than a Sabbath. I wish it were that easy. There's still more to learn. They called this a blowing of trumpets, a memorial blowing of trumpets. The memorial that we're talking about is this word here, zikran. Zikran. A shouting. Haruah. This is not a blowing. It says nothing about trumpets. It's a shouting. What are they shouting? They call it a holy convocation, a holy mikra. You know, I had a note. I'm going to go back up here a little bit because this is something that we need to talk about. Here, I think it was verse 2. Yeah, here it is. This is Moed. Speak to Israel's seed and say to them, Yehovah's appointed times. They called it Yehovah's feast. They called it feasts. No, it's appointed times. This is not Kag. This is Moed. And it's Yehovah's Moed. Just like it's Israel's seed, this is Yehovah's Moed. Same construction with the Vav saying that it belongs to Yehovah. Then it talks about holy rehearsals. Mikra. Appointed times, holy rehearsals. I think of it as Mikra, my spiritual appointments, my being Yehovah, Yehovah's spiritual appointments. Rehearsals. They're spiritual appointments, holy mikras, holy appointed times. Remember, we're talking about the holidays. Those are flesh appointments, not spiritual appointments. Yehovah has spiritual appointments, holy mikra. Appointed times, Yehovah's appointed times, holy rehearsals, holy mikras. Let's go back down now. We're in 24. Sabbath rest, blowing of trumpets. Holy mikras, there it is, holy mikras. Holy assemblies, holy rehearsals. The Jews, dare I say, I don't want to give the Jewish people a bad name because Judah is part of Israel, 1/12 of Israel. Judah is not all Israel, and the Jews are not all Israel. But what is happening these days is these Jews are turning out to be Khazarians. They've taken the name of Jews, but they're not Jewish in heart. They have no love for Yehovah in their heart. They love the Elohim of this world, Satan. They have named this particular month, the first day of the 7th month, Rosh Hashanah. They call it the New Year's, and they make it a 2-day feast. Now, how can we have a new year on the first day of the 7th month? Doesn't that kind of limit it from being the first day of the first year? Yeah, totally. Little things throughout my life I've seen. I went to a Messianic Jewish church, synagogue, for a while. Maybe even a couple of years, 2 different ones. And this was one of the things that I saw that put something in my spirit that said, no, something's wrong here. Can't be Rosh Hashanah, can't be the New Year, 7th month, first day. These are things you have to ask yourself. Don't follow the doctrines and traditions of men. Think for yourselves. Dig deeper. That's what people are doing right now in the political realm, to uncover many things that have been hidden from us. We have to do the same thing in the scriptures. First, we got to know which scriptures are the scriptures. Yehovah's word, the word spoken by Yehovah to Israel through Moses and his prophets, those are the scriptures. Remember Paul talking to the Bereans and saying that they were wise because they went back to their homes and searched the scriptures to see if it was so? What scriptures did they search? There was only the Hebrew prophets. The Hebrew scriptures. That's what they searched. Peter said you are mistaken because you don't know the oracles of Elohim. What are the oracles? The words of Yehovah. This is what we study every week here in my Torah class. The words of Yehovah. They are life. And they bring wisdom to those who will search them out. Not talking about a blowing of trumpets. You can blow your trumpet. It's okay. I blow my trumpet. But it's not about blowing trumpets. It's about waking people up. In 10 days, Yom Kippurim is coming. And you need to be ready. They call it the 10th day of the 7th month. I call it kind of a countdown. Coming from Yom Teruah, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. You get my point. You got to be ready for the feast, for Yom Kippurim, the Day of Coverings. We'll talk about that in a moment. He says, on this day, you shall do no customary work. On this Shabbaton, not Sabbath, this Shabbaton, you shall do no customary work. It says, you shall bring, is what it says, an offering made by fire. It doesn't say offering made by. Here's what it says. You shall do no servile work. That's the work. You shall bring fire to Yehovah. So now, here's where the fire, what we bring on this day to Yehovah. Whoops. What happened here? I didn't really want to go there. I guess I hit the wrong note. Here's 29, 1 through 7. No, where are we? Oh, no, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. 29, the fall feasts. These are the things that we bring. The 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work. For you, it is a blowing of trumpets. There we go again. It's a shouting. It's a shouting. Day of shouting. I have shouting. Yom Teruah. It is a day of Yom Teruah. Shouting. And then he tells us the things that we're going to bring. Back. There's the 29th day. Okay. I'm using this color coding so you can see who he's talking about. Israel's seed is the you. You shall do no customary work on it. You shall bring an offering made by fire to Yehovah. Actually, it's going to go to the priests. It's the priests that actually have the responsibility for the different offerings that are itemized in Numbers 29, 29, 1 through whatever for the all the fall feasts. Now he says, and Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, also the 10th day of the 7th month shall be a day of coverings. They want to make it atonement, always atonement. You are being covered. Look what it says. Surely on the 10th month of the 10th of the 7th month is a day of the coverings. Ha-kaparim. Ha-kaparim. It's not a day of covering. It's a day of the coverings. There are many coverings that are going to take place on this day. We talked about it in 16 of Leviticus. However many weeks ago when we were talking about Yom Kippurim, Leviticus 16. It says it's a holy convocation. A holy convocation shall it be to you. Therefore ye shall afflict your souls. Afflict your souls. That's the flesh equivalent. We're not talking about afflicting our souls. What are we talking about? We're talking about humbling ourselves before Yehovah, making sure that our spirit is in correct alignment with our Father. Are we going to follow him, or are we going to do the things that everybody else does? No, this is a choice. You either are going to learn to follow Yehovah, or you're going to be removed from the earth. You know, last week I started to say, and I realized I didn't finish it, that this life is about learning to follow Yehovah. Will we do it in this life? It's kind of a test. If we won't do it now, why would Yehovah think that we would do it when we get to heaven? We don't do it now. It's a test. You're going to be removed from the earth. Rapture. Have you heard the word rapture? You know, Christians, they got this idea that those who believe in Jesus are going to be raptured. But they have no clue what we're talking about when we're talking about rapture. Yehovah says the wicked are going to be removed from the earth, and the righteous are going to be in the land forever. No, we've got it totally backwards. We've been tricked. It's a Catholic doctrine given to us by some crazy priest. That's where rapture comes from. The wicked get removed if there was some kind of a rapture. No. Yehovah says the righteous are going to remain on the earth. The wicked are going to be taken from it. I wrote an article on Yom Kippurim. You should listen to it before Yom Kippurim comes. There's some really good information on that. And it's actually a 3-part series, as I recall, on Yom Kippurim. Talks about the goats, talks about why one stays and one goes, the lot of Yehovah. You know, they're both goats. They both look alike. You know, the Christian church wants to make goats bad, sheep good. Ridiculous. No, these are 2 goats. Similar. They're both goats. They don't even have to look alike. They're both goats. Just like everybody says they're Israel. But Yehovah is the one who searches the heart, who tests the mind to see if you're going to do what's right or what's wrong. And that's what this is all about, Yom Kippurim. You going to be the goat that goes into the wilderness or the goat that gets killed? I want to be the goat that goes into wilderness with his sins fully repented of. And that's why we humble ourselves before Yehovah. Our souls, humble our souls. Here's the word that they use, nefesh. You really can't see it in this. Here, I'll move it down a little bit. There it is, nefesh. Yeah, Thoughts and emotions. We're going to humble our thoughts and our emotions before Yehovah. Afflict your souls. They make it about flesh. There are people that crucify themselves, that whip themselves. Ridiculous. That's not what Yehovah is talking about. Again, you shall do no work on that same day, for it is a day of coverings. Here's the word. Of kaparim. Kaparim. They put atonements. They don't say atonements. It's a day of coverings. To make a covering for you before Yehovah, your Elohim. (29) For any person, any soul, any nefesh, who is not humbled, here's the word they use, they make it afflicted. It's a nah. Looking down, browbeating, depressed. It gets translated as abased and afflicted, but that's not what the word means. No, this is a day of humbling ourselves, looking inward, making sure that we're right with Yehovah. That's what Yom Kippurim is all about. Some people call it the holiest day of the year. Probably is the holiest day of the year for Israel. But if you're a Ger, Passover is the most important day of the year because it's a day you become Israel. You become the Ezra man. You circumcise yourself in all your house and you become Israel. And Ezra, we're going to talk about that in a moment. For any nefesh who is not afflicted in soul, they added soul because they used nefesh here. On that same day shall be cut off from among his people. You work on this day. You don't humble yourself on this day. You get cut off from your people. And maybe, just maybe, it's not the people that cut you off. It may be Yehovah that cuts you off because you wouldn't humble yourself. Any nefesh who does any work on that day. I meant to have that. Who does any work on that day? I want to have that in yellow also. I'm trying to do all those in yellow, not working. That person shall be destroyed from among his people. Again, it's not the people who are going to destroy the person. They don't know if he's humbling himself or not. Yehovah is going to do it. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. This has nothing to do with us being in our land or not. We're going to humble ourselves if we want to be Yehovah's. Now he says, look at this. This is the 10th day of the 7th month. And look at the word that they use. It says, it shall be a Sabbath. Well, that doesn't say Shabbaton. I thought it would say Shabbaton. It doesn't. It says Sabbath. Isn't that interesting? A Sabbath. It's the 10th day of the 7th month. It's a day of rest. A day of examining. I says, I'm reading it on the right. You could read it on the left. It shall be to you a Sabbath, a Shabbat, a solemn rest. And you shall humble, I put, or possibly examine, might be a good word, your souls, your thoughts and emotions. On the 9th day of the month at evening, from evening to evening, you shall celebrate your Shabbat. There it is, your Shabbat. This says your, the rest of it says Shabbat. You shall celebrate your Shabbat. Doesn't say Shabbaton. I thought it would say Shabbaton. It doesn't. I think it should, but it doesn't. Then Yehovah spoke to Moses. Speak to Israel's seed. Now we're going to the Shabbat, or the Sukkot. Here it is. Speak to Israel's seed, saying, on the 15th day of the month, 15th day of the 7th month, shall be, it says, the Feast of Tabernacles. It really says a festival of booths. Festival, that is Kag, HaSukkot, booths. The festival of booths, if you will. Or festival of the booths. That's maybe better because the definite article is with the booths. Sukkot. Plural. I wrote an article about that. Three articles, again, about Sukkot. Who stays in the tents? What is the shrubbery that we bring and wave before Yehovah all week long? We'll talk about that in a moment. Why do we do that? Could it be that this flesh, this stuff right here, is a Sukkot, is what we're Sukkoting in right now? Our bodies for these 7,000 years? Or is it possible that we are dwelling under Yehovah's tent, the big top? We'll talk about that in a moment. Of course, then we'll have to talk about flat earth, won't we? Because there's a big top that's over the top of the earth. Oh, we have had a lot of lies given to us, you guys. NASA means deception in Hebrew. Deceive. And that's exactly what NASA has done to us. Deceive us, thinking that we're little and unimportant to Yehovah, when just exactly the opposite is the case. Speak to Israel's seed, saying, on the 15th day of the 7th month shall be a cog of, what do we say, HaSukkot, the booths, festival of the booths. That's a good translation. That's my translation. Festival of the booths. For 7 days to Yehovah. Remember, only men are here. It's Israel's seed right there. Not the children of Israel. No, you got it wrong. It ain't right. Got to find out. Got to dig deeper. It says on the first day, there shall be a holy convocation. Convocation. What is the word they use for convocation? A holy mikra. You can almost guess what it's going to be with the Kodesh in front of it, that it's going to be mikra. A spiritual appointment. But Yehovah is coming once again to meet with us. It says his appointment. Yehovah's moed. His spiritual appointments. For 7 days. Oh, the first day. We got to do the first day. The first day. So we just did, yeah. The first day. There shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. We're not going to work. It's a Shabbaton. We're not going to do any work on that day. For 7 days you shall bring fire to Yehovah. Again, the red is all added words. You shall bring fire to Yehovah. On the 8th day, you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall bring fire to Yehovah. Well, we know where that fire is because we can look at it here. This is for 1 through 7 days, and here's the offerings that we bring on the 8th day, all in Numbers 29. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. It is a sacred assembly. What's the word they use for sacred assembly? I wonder. It is a sacred assembly. Let's look. Say, we say sacred. Maybe it's a mikra. Solemn assembly. There's the assembly. Asarat. Unto Yehovah. Fire unto Yehovah. A solemn assembly. You shall do no work on it. It doesn't even really say what we were just checking for, sort of a work. Solemn assembly. They just call it a solemn assembly. It's one word. It shall be this, especially on the festival. An assembly. That's what it shall be, an assembly. Where does it say solemn? It doesn't say solemn. They add that. Then they say translated. This is how it gets translated. See the dash after holiday there, festival or holiday, dash. Everything after the dash is not the definition. It is something that's being added. It's how it's being used in other scriptures. So they translated as solemn assembly, and that's what they did here, was they translated it as solemn assembly. Sacred assembly is what they did. Okay. 37. These are the feasts of Yehovah, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations. We know if the holy's there, it's going to be Mikra, Kadosh Mikra. And there it is, Mikra, holy Mikra. Moedim. These are the Moedim of Yehovah. They've appointed times, Moedim, appointed times that goes with this, Moedim, Yehovah's Moedim, and my holy rehearsals, my Mikra. To offer, what does he offer? Look what we're going to offer. To offer fire to Yehovah. What are we going to offer? Olah. Here, I've got it here. I think I've got it here. Thought I had it here. Maybe I don't. Olah, minka. This would be zavik, as in zavik of Shalomim, and nasek offerings. Everything on that day. But now look what it says. Besides, if we have Sabbaths, if it's a Sabbath day also, we got to do the Sabbath things of Yehovah. Besides your gifts. Here. Besides the Sabbaths of Yehovah. And beside your gifts. Matana. And beside your vows. Neder. And your nedabah. Your free will offerings. Which ye shall give to Yehovah. So we're doing all this besides the other things that have to be done on that day. Now it says, also on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of your land, you shall keep the feasts of Yehovah for 7 days. The first day, we're talking about the 15th day now, the first day shall be a Sabbaton, not a Sabbath, a day of rest. And the 8th day shall be a Sabbaton, a day of rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of a beautiful tree. You know, I'm gonna use my translation. And you shall take lakak. You all shall take, or maybe each one of you shall take, on the first day of a goodly tree, a bough, fruit. They're going to talk about willows. Willows don't have much fruit. They have boughs. And we're going to take those boughs, branches of the palm and the bough of its covering twig, a tree of dense, thick willows of the brook, and rejoice before Yehovah, your Elohim, 7 days. We're going to take boughs, and for 7 days, we're going to wave those at the festival before Yehovah. That's what we're going to do with these things. There's only the one verse about this. Oh no, maybe it's 2 verses. You shall keep it as a feast to Yehovah for 7 days a year, for 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Yeah, so all this is going to be done in the 7th month. Now, look what it says in 42. I'm going to read my notes here. Talking about the goodly trees and the things that we're going to wave. They get translated different ways. Here's ISV, I think, is the International Standard Version. It says, and ye shall take for yourself on the first day the boughs of a goodly tree, branches of palm trees, boughs of thick trees, willows of the brook, and ye shall rejoice before Yehovah your Elohim 7 days. I'm trying to get the idea that we're taking branches and we're going to wave those before Yehovah. EB, emphasized Bible. So ye shall take you on the first day boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees. Now they only have trees. They only say tree. It doesn't say trees. It says tree when they say this. It's the tree's bough, so that's not plural. That's possessive. It's the tree's bough. They always want to make trees. I don't think that's right. I think he's saying we can do it from any of these trees. On the first day, take branches from an impressive fruit trees, goodly. Branches from palm trees, boughs of thick trees, wave before Yehovah. King James says, and ye shall take you on the first day a bough of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, boughs of thick trees, willows of the brook, and ye shall rejoice before Yehovah your Elohim 7 days. All right, 42. Here we go. This gets interesting now. Look what this says. You read it on the right or left. I'll read it on the right. Ye shall be seated. They say dwell. The word is seated. Here's the word right here. Shava. Yeah, yashav, which means to sit down. Dwell. It can be translated as dwell, remain. You shall be seated. Second person, plural, masculine, of course. We're talking about Israel's seed. In protective coverings. This is the suk. This happens to be more than one because remember it's the feast of the booths, the Sukkots. You shall be in protective coverings. This is what they're talking about, in protective coverings. 7 days. Look what it says. Of the Ezrach in Israel. Who's the Ezrach in Israel? They say the native Israelites. Sometimes they say those born in the land. They have all different kinds of things for covering up this word. They don't want you to know about the Ezrach. It's the Ezrach who dwell in booths. Not the ger, not the ladies, not the servants, not the female servants. The Ezrach in Israel. They shall be seated in protective coverings. Sukkot. that your generation may know that in protective coverings, I'm going to the next verse, Israel's seed dwelt when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. Do you hear this? The Ezrach are going to dwell in protective coverings. Why? So that you may remember that in protective coverings, booths, Israel's seed dwelt. Do you see that Israel's seed and the Ezrach are one in the same? This is not the first time we've seen this, you guys. We saw this in Exodus 12. We saw it in Leviticus 17, 18, 19. This is 23. We're going to see it in 24. But there are lots of places where we talk about this. Here. I just happen to have a note. Israel's seed are the Ezrach. This is the first time we saw it. One law shall be for the native born. The native, the Ezrach. For the Ezrach. That's what it says. For a native. For a native, what's a native? People don't know what a native is. They think it's somebody who was born there. But they don't understand it's a spiritual birth. And for the Ger, who dwells with them. Then look what it says. Thus all Israel's seed did. Because Israel's seed, B'nai Israel, is the Ezra men. You got to dig deeper. Here's Leviticus 16. This shall be a statute forever. We're talking about Yom Kippurim. This shall be a statute forever for you. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict your souls. Humble your souls and do no work at all. Whether native born of your own country, that's Ezra Haaretz, Ezra of the land, or the stranger who dwells with you. When do you see that? Usually, doesn't it usually say the Israel's seed or the children of Israel and the Ger who dwells with them, the stranger who dwells with them? See, you got to know what's underneath these English words. We've learned lies. Leviticus, we talked about that. It was all about Israel's seed. And finally it says, whatever man of the children of Israel, no, take it back, got to go one more verse, 17, 15. And every soul, nefesh, all nefesh and all nefesh, that eats that which dies of itself, or that which is torn by beasts, as a native of your own country. Now there they translated as a native of your own country from one word, Ezra. As an Ezra. That's what it says, as an Ezra. But they make it a native of your own country, or the Ger. He shall wash his clothes, bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. Then he shall be clean. That's Leviticus 17. We saw it again in 18. Talking about those of the Ezra and the Ger who dwell among them. 19. The stranger who dwells among you shall be to you as one among you, and you shall as one among you, as an Ezra. As one among you, it's the same word, as one among you, as the Ezra. And you shall love him as yourself. For you are strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Yehovah your Elohim. See, they get covered. This word gets covered up constantly. If you go to, if you're in eSword and you click on this H249, you can go over here to the King James Concordance. This is all the places that this word Ezra is found in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. Even Ezekiel has a spot. But it's used constantly, but we don't see it because it gets covered up by the native born. The one born from your own country, they hide it. Why do they hide it? Do you think a spiritually born Ezra man is something that they don't want you to know about? I'm talking about the translators. I'm talking about the publishers of these scriptures. No, they don't want you to see this. King James didn't want you to see this. He's not talking about Ezra, man. They don't even have a translation for Ezra. They say the Ezra Haaretz, the earth's Ezra. You can say the earth's Ezra, but how do you translate Ezra? The earth's B'nai Israel. The earth's, there's just nothing you could, the earth's seed, the earth's spiritual seed. No, they don't even have a translation for this particular word. You got to dig. Here's the one that we saw in 19. And the stranger who dwells among you shall be to you as one among you. Oh, that's the one we just read, as an Ezra. This is 23, the one we're doing right now. But we're going to see next week, we're going to have the same situation. And in Numbers, we're going to have some. And there's going to be several in Numbers that we're going to see also. I didn't even mention them all. That was Numbers 9 here. There's Numbers 15. Numbers 15. Numbers 15. Numbers 15. Numbers 9. So there's 2 times it's used in Numbers. Bunch of times in Leviticus. And once in Exodus. But it's important that we understand this because we've got to understand who we're talking about when we're talking about the children of Israel. Used to be the sons of Israel when I was a boy. Now I understand it's Israel's seed. Spiritually born men of multiple generations. That's Israel's seed. That's the promise that Yehovah made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob about the land and the seed. Yeah, the Ezra Haaretz. The Ezra of the land. That's the land and the seed. As the sands of the sea, when Yehovah raises them up, you watch how many there's going to be. Only the seed are going to be raised up, probably and their wives. No one else. Nobody's watching you from heaven. The dead are in the earth. Got to learn about the state of the dead. I've got lots of articles about the state of the dead. Dwelling booths. So here we are. Seated. We got to understand seated. Yashab. We've got to understand this booth. So I've got it broken down here. Where do I have it? Oh, I'm not on my study note. That's my problem. Here it is. Here's Shav. First we had, we'll do the Shav first. The Shin is a picture of 2 front teeth representing pressing. The Bet is a picture of a tent. Combined, these means press to the tent, a place of dwelling as a place to return to. Here is same word, translated as in coverings. In coverings. We are in coverings. Here, this is ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible again. Oh, that's not the same word. Coverings. Seated. Here. Seated. Seated. Shav. This is Yashav. So we're talking about being seated. That's what we want there. That's the word we're looking for, and that's why it's translated up here. Seated in Sukkot. Let's go to the Sukkot. Here it is. A sin and a cough. The pictograph sin is a picture of a thorn representing protection. The cough is the picture of the palm of a hand representing a covering. Combined, they mean a protective covering. Yehovah gives us protective coverings. The watcher over the crops, flocks, herds would construct a covering, a booth, as a shelter from the sun, the wind, the rain. These coverings were often constructed on elevated positions and made from materials readily available, such as thorns, bushes, small trees. It means covering. It means a booth. Action is the cover. The concrete is the booth. That's why it gets translated as booths. This is a rehearsal for his sons, Ezra's seed. Really, there is no word for sons. We are all who are Ezra men. We are his son. We're all his son, who dwelt in the earth for 7,000 years. And what Yom Kippurim is all about is getting covered by Yehovah. In the last days, as we go into the wilderness, we will have a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day to cover us. I want you to see that that's what, remember, we said he made us dwell in coverings because when he brought us out of Egypt, we dwelt in coverings. Israel's seed dwelt in coverings. So this is Joel. And it says, and I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yehovah. Yehovah. Not Yeshua, Yehovah. And it shall come to pass that whoever calls on the name of Yehovah shall be saved. For in Mount Zion in Jerusalem there shall be deliverance, as Yehovah said, among the remnant whom Yehovah calls. Now I'm moving on from there to this. Then Yehovah, this is in Isaiah. Then Yehovah will create above every dwelling place of Mount Zion and above her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day and a shining flaming fire by night. For a glorious covering, this is kafah, and a sukkah. This is sukkah, and a protective covering. Sukkah, a tabernacle. This is singular. Sukkah, and a covering. So a kafah, a covering, and a sukkah, protective covering. Here's kafah. They spell it a little bit differently. Same word, kafah. It says the the chakat is a picture of a wall. The fe is a mouth, meaning open. Combined, they mean well opened. The tent is an opening to allow one into the covering for protection. Anyone entering the tent will be protected at the cost but at all costs by the owner. So we're just talking about the pillar of fire being a kafah and a protective covering for Israel's seed. As it was in the wilderness, it will be again. So the kafah is a covering. And we already saw about the sukkah, a protective covering. We're being covered in a protective covering. That's what it is. Covered. It's an action. The kufah is an action. The sons of Israel dwell in tents in the wilderness. This is interesting when you talk about the big top. Do I even have that here? Maybe it's going to be in the next verse. I bet it is. Israel's seed shall pitch their tents, every man, every ish, by his own camp, everyone by his own standard according to their armies. In 9 it says that when Numbers 9, when the cloud was taken up from above the tabernacle, after that Israel's seed would journey, and in the place where the cloud settled, there Israel's seed would pitch their tents. Can you see that the tents even are under a covering? They're in their tents under the covering of Yehovah's pillar of fire and smoke. Numbers 25 says, how lovely, this is probably Balaam talking. How lovely are your tents, your Ohalim, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel. Ezrach, men. So now here's the other half of it, where we said that your generation may know that in protective coverings, in Sukkots, in booths, Israel's seed dwelt when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. We were talking about the Ezra men. Now we're talking about the Israel seed. They're both the same. I want you to pull those together. Understand, they go together. You're not an Israel seed if you're not an Ezra man. And you're not an Ezra man unless you keep Passover. That's what Exodus 12:48 is all about. The Ezra, Israel's seed, are held close and protected by him when we dwell under his covering, just as Jacob did. Ooh, I made a really interesting article. Excuse me while I toot my own horn. It is called Jacob Dwelt in Heaven. It's about being under the big top. Here, let me show you this. I think I've got it here. Oh, no, maybe I got it one. Nope, there it is right there. Yeah. Jacob dwelt in the big top. It says Jacob, first it talked about Esau being a man of the land and an expert hunter. And then it called Jacob a mild man dwelling in tents. Oh, gosh, we've been so lied to. Mild is the word tam, which is a righteous man. And tents, you don't dwell in tents, oh Halim. He can only dwell in one tent. But this says, oh Halim, he dwelt in tents. Tents is the qualitative plural of the spiritual men who dwell in heaven. Abraham dwelt in heaven. We dwell in heaven by keeping Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. We're under the big top. We understand. This gets us back to the flat earth and the top of the earth, the dome of the earth, the big top. That's Yehovah's tent that we dwell in. Everybody dwells in it, but they don't know it. Well, interesting article. Here's the article. Jacob dwelt in heaven. This got corrupted. I need to fix it. At one point, all my Hebrew letters got switched. I don't know if it was a hacker. I've spent many, many hours fixing these, and I just found this one this morning that hadn't been fixed. It's not one of my pages. It's one of my posts, which is why I missed it. But it's an important article for you to read. Let's continue. We're almost done, folks. I know this is taking a little bit longer. Here, this is Exodus 19. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice, keep my covenant. We did once at Passover, but we need to continue. That's why I'm doing it tomorrow. And you shall be a special treasure to me above all the people. For all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests. He only has male priests. And a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to Israel's seed, his Ezra men. And the last verse for today. So Moses declared to Israel's seed the feasts of Yehovah. And that's what we're talking about. Yehovah's appointed times. Sabbaths, new moons, all the feasts, Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Shavuot, Yom Kippurim, Sukkot, and the great 8th day. We missed that one. Why did we miss the 8th day? We didn't say anything about the 8th day. Did we miss a verse? Where was it? 15th day. Well, I know we talked about the 8th day. I must have missed it somewhere. Because I know we didn't talk about the 8th day. I don't know where it is right offhand. We're going to stop here. You guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's meet again next week. We're going to go through Leviticus 24. Don't even know what it's about yet, but I'm going to find out before then. I've taught it many times. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.